Thank you for having me. When I was 17 years old, I realized I had a sexual fetish, and it was that I only liked girls. And I thought I had to fix this. I thought it was more politically correct to be bisexual, and I tried. I really tried, and I didn't succeed. I was never able to change my sexuality very much. We're not able to do that yet, but we will be. I think that it's coming. I think that we will have the understanding of genetics and neurochemistry, we'll have surgical techniques, we'll have machines in our brains that will be able to change those kinds of things. We can already suppress sexual desire in men with implants, with chemical castration. We do for sexual criminals. So I think you're already wondering, what about Iran? What about Tehran? Well, in Tehran, you're given a choice. If you're found to be gay, you're given a choice. You can either be killed or you can be transitioned to gender reassignment. So Tehran has become one of the headquarters of gender reassignment in the world because they do a lot of it. And I think in this future that I imagine where we will have this kind of control, gay people in Tehran will have a third choice. They can be killed, or they could be gender reassigned, or they could have their sexual orientation changed. They could be given a pill to change it. Now, I want people to have these choices. I think in the West, I want people, and maybe in the West, if someone is in a Christian home, Christian community, and they discover that they're gay, it might be easier to take a pill to change it. I want people to have that choice in the West, but I want it to be a free choice, right? I don't want it to be a choice mandated by a theocracy, by a fascist dictatorship. I want people to be able to be happier. In Brave New World, the drug soma is often seen as somehow enabling or causing the fascist regime of Brave New World. But it didn't. It was just one of the things that the government made available to people. In general, David Pierce, you'll hear from later, David Pierce is a great advocate for soma, for happy drugs. And I think in general, the evidence is that happier people are in fact more likely to resist, more likely to fight for change. It's depressed people who are really the ones who give up and who give in to things. But some drugs do make you forget. Alcohol makes you forget. Alcohol is a bad drug. We'll have better drugs in the future, but drugs that are less dangerous and more happy. But I think the people, what we're seeing in the United States now is that a lot of people are trying to forget. The life expectancy in the United States has plateaued. Suicide, alcoholism, drug abuse, it's all going up. And why? Well, one of the reasons is technology. Artificial intelligence, I believe it's inevitable that artificial intelligence, automation, will eventually eat all jobs. It may not eat every job, but it will eat parts of every job. And it's already eating the middle strata of income jobs in the United States. We already see a growing economic inequality in the United States because of automation. Since the year 2000, the number of people employed in the United States as a proportion of the population has been declining. And what we see in response to that, the communities hardest hit by automation are the ones where we see the rise of fascist support, right? The rise of support for Trump. White working class men going around blaming brown people for their problems and using their guns. Because we have a lot of guns in the United States, by the way, just since I know you're thinking about this question a lot right now. If you look at the United States, the principal thing that having more guns in your community brings, more suicide, more mass murder. It does not protect you from crime. It does not protect you from people who might want to invade your home. It means that your kids might get those guns and shoot their brother and sister. So think very carefully. But guns, 3D printed guns, they're going to be inevitable. There's no way to control it. We will have more guns in the future because we will all be able to print them in little boxes in our homes. So we will have to figure out what to do with that. Technology does not cause social problems. Social problems, and like inequality, use the technology in ways that are unequal, right? If you are in an unequal society, there will be an unequal distribution of guns. If you're in an unequal society, there will be an unequal distribution of the benefits of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will make us rich, but all of those riches are going to the top 1% throughout the world. And we could take that wealth, we could take those profits, those benefits, and make it better for everybody. We could have universal basic income. We could expand access to higher education. In the United States, we don't even have a right to health care. You're ahead of us in that regard, right? We could provide these things for everyone, but it takes social change. The technology does not determine that the society necessarily be more unequal, but if you are in an unequal society, the technology will have unequal effects, right? I think this future could be tremendous. One of the things that we have to transcend is this monkey brain that we inherited. If you look at why people support authoritarian dictators or why they support fascist politics, it's because they're afraid. If I had put some gum or some jam on the door as you were coming in and your hand was sticky, this experiment's been done. If your hand was sticky right now, you'd feel kind of, yuck, yuck. And then if I ask you a question of how you feel about homosexuality or how you feel about ethnic minorities or immigration, you'd be a little bit more conservative. Because what I'm doing is I'm playing with the back part of your brain, the monkey part of your brain. I'm making you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and that uncomfortableness translates politically into support for authoritarianism and for hostility to outsiders, right? That's what happens in the United States. Trump is now saying, there's thousands of disease-carrying, maybe Muslim, people from Guatemala who are going to come into the United States. We have to send troops to control the border, and he's trying to gin up the fear so that we will support authoritarian politics. What we know is that if you're smarter people generally have bigger and more powerful prefrontal cortices, this part of the brain, the human part of the brain. And that part of the brain can tell the back part of the brain to shut up. You see somebody with a hijab, you think, shut up. It's just a hijab. Don't worry about it. You see two men kissing, shut up, right? So we know that if you have a more powerful prefrontal cortex, you can act in a more human way. It's not post-human, it's not transhuman, it's human. Just to be human is to be able to tell yourself to shut up, right? To control those animalistic responses of fear that we have. I think we will be able to live in that future. But you may remember Soviet psychiatry, right? Soviet psychiatry said, oh, you are against the state, that's a mental disorder, so we'll have to send you to prison and we'll fix your brain with drugs and with electric shock. We will live in a future where we will be able to change the most fundamental aspects of our personality. We will be able to change our desires, what things we want, who we think we are, our gender identity. But what will determine that is who is in power. Right? Whether we can choose those things for ourselves based on our own preferences, or whether somebody else tells us what we need, right? So I think this is true across the board. Technology is inscribed with power. This is absolutely true. And sometimes technology is so deeply written with power that it has different kinds of effects in society, more unequal effects. So an example, solar power. Solar power is where a society would have, everybody would have the power on their roof, right? And no one would be able to use solar power to blow things up. Nuclear power is where you have to have a military state to control access to this, and it has to be centralized. And the weapons could be made from the things that are used in nuclear power. The two technology choices have completely different effects in society. Now, I think you can have a democratic society and be nuclear powered. Many are. And vice versa. You could have a totalitarian society and have solar power. But the technology itself has a political effect. So part of what we are called to do is to imagine how technology could be used, how it could be written, how it could be designed to be liberatory, right? I'm not saying that technology has no effect on society. But the effect that it has is because we are unequal in the first place. So if we make society more equal, we will have free people making more equal choices about how to use technology, and those people will come up with free uses for technology. The crossbow was first invented because knights used to roam around enforcing the authoritarianism of the medieval states, and they were on these big horses and they had suits of armor, and you could throw rocks at them, but it had no effect. So knights invented how to knock another knight off a horse with a crossbow, a big, powerful arrow. And then the bandits figured out, that's good. I like that. So they got a hold of crossbows, and it changed the dynamic of power. Suddenly, knights were not all powerful anymore. You could knock one off a horse with a crossbow. We need to be figuring out, okay, WhatsApp and Facebook, they've been weaponized. Russian propaganda. My own brother voted for Trump because he got Russian propaganda that told him, a white guy in Southern Ohio, that the Muslims were going to enact Sharia law in Southern Ohio, right? And I would tell him, no, this is crazy. Where are you getting this? Well, I know where he got it now. He got it from Moscow, literally from Moscow. Your WhatsApp, it was similarly corrupted by fake news, right? But these are also technologies that have tremendous democratic potential. Every time a new technology comes along, when the telegraph was invented, people said, this will knit the world together. There will be no more war. We're all going to be talking to each other all the time, all across the world. It didn't happen. But it has an effect. It has an effect when we see on the internet all the diversity of things around the world. Younger people are increasingly open to change and newness. They're not as afraid. They are mastering the monkey back part of their brain, and they're open to the differences in the future in an increasing way because of this kind of exposure. We need to master these technologies. The GDPR law that Europe just passed, it's a pain in the ass, and it may not have the intended effects. But at least Europe is thinking about technology as a democratic project. They're thinking about what it means for individuals to be able to control their own information. Should you be able to tell Google, I want you to forget everything you know about me, right? That's incredibly empowering. Who knows if it's going to work, but it's an incredibly empowering idea. So I urge you all, we should, whenever we hear someone say, this technology is like Brave New World or 1984, it's going to cause totalitarianism, think critically about that. Say, no, I don't think technology ever really causes fascism or causes inequality. I think what it does is it creates an opportunity for us to figure out how to use it in a liberatory way. And if we are opposed to fascism, we have to fight fascism. The Third Reich was not created by poison gas and railroad tracks. The Third Reich used poison gas and railroad tracks. Facebook does not create fascism. Facebook is used by fascism, right? We can use it for democratic purposes. We can use it to make the world more equal. Thank you.